The most incredible thing about Diana, she talked through her eyes. They're the most expressive eyes.
I was comfortable with it when I was younger, and I would go to the opening of wallets, and it's different when you're young.
Not many celebs have managed to mix global stardom with royal ties, quite like Sir Elton John. He's not just a music legend. He's also been part of some real, behind-the-scenes moments with the British royal family. Everyone knows about his close bond with Princess Diana. But Elton's royal connections go way beyond that. Over the years, he's had his fair share of run-ins with the Queen, King Charles III, and more. Lately, though, it's his surprising friendship with Queen Camilla that's been turning heads. A low-key but solid bond built on respect, shared causes, and a good bit of charm. Is Elton true to Camilla? Elton, Diana, and Camilla. Elton's association with the royals began in the 70s, when his rising fame earned him invitations to events hosted by Princess Margaret and the Queen Mother. From the start, he carried a mix of showbiz charisma and genuine charm, which made him a welcome guest at royal functions. He famously performed at private events and enjoyed a moment of levity when Queen Elizabeth II herself reportedly danced with him to "Rock Around the Clock" at Windsor Castle. A detail that reveals not only his musical reach but also his ability to bring joy into even the most formal settings. In 1998, his role as a national treasure was cemented when Queen Elizabeth knighted him for services to music and charity. It was a recognition not only of his decades-long music career, but also his activism in the fight against HIV and AIDS. Later, in 2021, Prince Charles, now King Charles III, bestowed upon Elton the prestigious Companion of Honor, a distinction reserved for those who have made a major contribution to the arts, science, medicine, or public service. That ceremony, held at Windsor Castle, symbolized a mutual respect between the artist and the institution he once shook up with his flamboyant performances and boundary-breaking persona. But the royal relationship that defined Elton John's public life more than any other was his deep and abiding friendship with Diana, Princess of Wales. The two first met at Prince Andrew's 21st birthday party in 1981. Elton later recalled how they bonded instantly, dancing the Charleston together and laughing in what he described as a relief from the stuffy atmosphere of the royal event. Over time, that light-hearted connection grew into a deep friendship built on shared compassion, vulnerability, and a desire to use their platforms for good. Diana, known for her empathy and hands-on charity work, found in Elton a kindred spirit. Their bond was tested and strengthened through public tragedy. When their mutual friend, fashion designer Gianni Versace, was murdered in 1997, Elton and Diana grieved side by side. Just weeks later, Diana herself died in a car crash in Paris, leaving the world in mourning, and Elton devastated. At her funeral, he performed a specially adapted version of "Candle in the Wind," transforming the song originally written for Marilyn Monroe into a heartfelt farewell for Diana. That performance, watched by millions around the globe, became one of the most iconic moments in both Elton's career and the monarchy's modern history. Years later, he would call it the most difficult performance of his life. While his connection with Diana was filled with affection and emotional depth, Elton's interactions with the rest of the royal family were often marked by respectful warmth and mutual appreciation. His relationship with Queen Elizabeth II, though less personal, was steady and meaningful. He performed at her Diamond Jubilee and other royal celebrations, and frequently spoke of her with fondness. Following her death in 2022, Elton shared a touching tribute, calling her an inspiring presence to be around, and remembering their many shared moments over the decades. It's clear that beyond ceremony, there was a quiet fondness between the monarch and the musician. Elton's connection to Camilla, now Queen Consort, is more understated, but no less real. Publicly, their interactions have been polite and professional, often centered around charitable work. One of the more notable appearances was at a gala held at Somerset House in London in 2012. The event, organized in part by Elton John's AIDS Foundation, included Camilla as a guest of honor. The two greeted each other warmly. Elton gave her a kiss on the cheek, and they shared a brief but friendly exchange that was widely photographed. While it was a small moment, it marked a kind of symbolic bridge between Elton's long-standing closeness with Diana and his ability to respectfully interact with Camilla, despite the complicated royal history. Elton has never publicly expressed any animosity toward Camilla, even though his loyalty to Diana was unquestioned. Instead, his behavior suggests an embrace of grace and maturity. He's long been an advocate for empathy, forgiveness, and moving forward, a theme reflected not only in his music, but in his broader public life. That one photo of him with Camilla tells its own quiet story, of time passing, of social wounds healing, and of shared public service overcoming personal history. His influence has carried forward into the next generation as well. Both Prince William and Prince Harry have kept in touch with Elton over the years. He performed at the concert for Diana in 2007 and was a guest at both princes' weddings. He has spoken in defense of Harry and Meghan Markle on more than one occasion, especially in the face of aggressive media treatment, an experience he knows well from the 90s, when tabloids relentlessly hounded his friend Diana. For Elton, protecting Diana's legacy has meant more than singing a song at her funeral. It has meant looking out for her sons in the years that followed. Another element that binds Elton John to the royal family is their shared commitment to charitable work. Elton's AIDS Foundation has raised hundreds of millions for HIV prevention and treatment, helping to reduce stigma and expand access to life-saving resources. This work has earned him high praise and formal honors, not just from the British monarchy, but from global leaders and organizations. Queen Camilla has likewise dedicated herself to a number of charitable causes, supporting literacy programs, children's hospitals, and victims of domestic violence. Though they operate in different areas, both have used their platforms for social good, often crossing paths at galas and fundraisers. Their mutual respect is rooted not in personal friendship, necessarily, but in a shared sense of duty. Looking across the decades, Elton John's place in royal life stands as a testament to how culture, compassion, and public service can intersect. He has brought music and humanity into royal spaces without ever compromising his individuality. He has honored the memory of Diana, while showing kindness and civility to the woman who succeeded her as queen. He has received the monarchy's highest honors and returned them with dignity, gratitude, and grace. The story of Elton John and the British royals is not one of scandal or gossip, but of quiet evolution. It is the story of an artist growing into a statesman of sorts, a bridge between tradition and transformation. His life, full of dramatic highs and lows, has mirrored the monarchy's own arc over the last 50 years. Together, they've weathered grief, change, and rebirth. And through it all, Elton has remained what he has always been, a performer with heart, a loyal friend, and an unexpected royal ally. Queen Camilla has remained one of the most controversial figures in modern royal history, not just because of her role in the breakup of Charles and Diana's marriage, but because her life has continually intersected with some of the most iconic names and moments in British cultural memory. From being cast as the other woman during the height of Princess Diana's global adoration, to her evolving relationship with Prince Harry, and even her unexpected rapport with celebrities like Sir Elton John, Camilla's story is often seen less as her own and more as a subplot in other, more high-profile narratives. This persistent association with powerful, emotionally charged figures has made it difficult for the public to see her as an individual rather than a symbol of scandal, of tradition, of quiet resilience. Yet, it's precisely this connection to history's larger-than-life personalities that makes her transformation all the more fascinating. Who exactly is Camilla? And why was she once one of the most hated women in the world? A country girl with confidence. Before the palaces, the tiaras, and the scrutiny of the spotlight, Camilla Rosemary Shand was simply a spirited girl with a love for horses, dogs, and the countryside. Born on July 17, 1947, Camilla grew up in a close-knit upper-class family in Sussex. Her childhood wasn't extraordinary in the fairy tale sense, but it was filled with the kind of privilege that quietly groomed her for a life where social ease and unflappability would one day prove essential. Camilla was known to be confident, funny, and fiercely independent. Friends from her youth describe her as someone who could hold her own in any conversation and wasn't one to fuss or flinch easily. It's this calm, grounded nature that many say has been one of her greatest assets in the whirlwind of royal life that was to come. Camilla met Prince Charles in the early 70s at a polo match, and as the now oft-retold story goes, she charmed him right from the start. There's a famous anecdote, whether fully true or somewhat embellished, that she introduced herself with a cheeky line. "My great-grandmother was your great-great-grandfather's mistress, so how about it?" Whether she said that or not, it captures the wit and confidence that made her so memorable. Their connection was instant and undeniable. Both loved the countryside, shared a passion for horses, and enjoyed the same dry sense of humor. But the timing, as they say, wasn't right. Charles went off to serve in the Royal Navy, and Camilla, grounded and realistic about her life, married Andrew Parker Bowles in 1973. Charles was heartbroken, but royal duty and the complicated expectations that came with it pulled them in different directions. Still, their bond never truly faded. Despite the distance and diverging paths, Camilla remained a significant figure in Charles's life. For years, their friendship simmered quietly in the background. When Diana, Princess of Wales, entered the picture in the 80s, everything changed on the surface. But the undercurrents of that original connection between Charles and Camilla never went away. Withering the storm. By the 90s, the press had fully zeroed in on Camilla, and not kindly. After Charles and Diana separated, and especially after Diana's tragic death in 1997, Camilla became a target for public blame. In the court of public opinion, she was cast as the other woman, and tabloid headlines were merciless. It was a brutal time. Camilla, who had always valued her privacy, was thrust into a global spotlight she never asked for. Her name was splashed across front pages, often accompanied by unflattering photographs and even less flattering commentary. To many, she symbolized the breakdown of the fairy tale image of Charles and Diana's marriage. But here's where Camilla's strength quietly shone. She didn't hit back at the press or make public statements. She didn't try to win anyone over with glitz or grand gestures. She simply carried on, living quietly, staying by Charles's side, and slowly, very slowly, letting the public see the real woman behind the headlines. And over time, the tide began to turn. People started to notice that Camilla wasn't the villain she had been painted to be. She was warm, down to earth, and incredibly loyal. She didn't seek attention, but when it came, she handled it with remarkable grace. It wasn't an overnight transformation, but gradually the public softened and began to accept that Camilla wasn't going anywhere. When Camilla and Charles finally married in 2005, it marked a turning point, not just for them, but for the monarchy. Their civil ceremony at Windsor Guildhall was followed by a blessing at St. George's Chapel, a quiet but meaningful way of affirming their union while respecting the sensitivities of the public and the church. Camilla took on the title of Duchess of Cornwall, consciously sidestepping the more controversial Princess of Wales title, which remained closely associated with Diana. It was a wise and gracious move, reflective of how she approached her new role, carefully, respectfully, and without fanfare. In the years that followed, Camilla embraced her royal duties with steady dedication. She didn't try to dazzle or dominate. Instead, she brought a sense of calm and maturity to the job. Whether visiting schools, attending agricultural shows, or supporting military families, Camilla showed up with sincerity. She laughed easily, listened closely, and never tried to be something she wasn't. And perhaps that's why people began to warm to her. She wasn't trying to outshine anyone or rewrite the past. She was simply present, reliable, engaged, and increasingly respected. One of her earliest and most consistent areas of focus has been literacy. Camilla is a passionate reader, and her love of books is infectious. In 2011, she launched The Reading Room, a project that later evolved into the Queen's Reading Room, a charity that promotes reading for pleasure and literacy across all age groups. For Camilla, books aren't just pastimes, they're bridges to understanding, empathy, and connection. And through this initiative, she's helped thousands discover that joy. A queen in the making. But perhaps even more profound has been her work in supporting survivors of domestic violence and sexual abuse. Long before such issues were widely spoken about in public, Camilla used her platform to shine a light on these uncomfortable topics. She visited shelters, listened to survivors, and worked closely with charities like Safe Lives and Women's Aid. Her involvement was never superficial. It was grounded in compassion and a desire to help give voice to those who often feel invisible. Over time, this advocacy has not only redefined how the public sees her, it's also highlighted her as a royal with a genuine sense of purpose. She may not court attention, but when she speaks, it's with authenticity and clarity. She's carved out a space for herself that's both dignified and deeply human. And as the years went on, Camilla began to feel more at ease in the spotlight. Her signature dry wit, once reserved for close friends, started peeking through in public appearances. She became a reliable source of warmth at official events, smiling, engaging, never stiff or rehearsed. People began to see the woman Charles had loved for decades, steady, funny, unpretentious, and quietly formidable. Grace under pressure. When Queen Elizabeth II passed away in September 2022, the world shifted. Not only did Britain lose its longest reigning monarch, but the entire royal family was thrust into a period of transition and scrutiny. For Camilla, the moment was both momentous and deeply delicate. She was stepping into a role she never sought, and one that carried immense historical weight. But if anyone expected her to stumble, they were sorely mistaken. Queen Elizabeth herself had helped pave the way. Earlier that year, during her Platinum Jubilee message, the late Queen made a clear and poignant statement. It was her sincere wish that Camilla be known as Queen Consort when Charles became king. It was a quiet but powerful endorsement, one that legitimized Camilla's place, not just beside Charles, but in the larger story of the monarchy. And when the moment came, Camilla rose to the occasion with her now familiar mix of dignity and warmth. She didn't try to emulate Queen Elizabeth, who could. Instead, she brought her own sensibility to the role, less formal, more approachable, but every bit as committed. She continued her patronages, deepened her involvement in charitable work, and gracefully took on the ceremonial duties expected of her. Whether attending state visits, meeting foreign dignitaries, or simply chatting with school children at a local library, Queen Camilla managed to strike that elusive balance between formality and friendliness. Even during the coronation in May 2023, an event filled with centuries of symbolism and tradition, she remained unruffled. Dressed in ivory and gold, wearing Queen Mary's crown with a few modifications, she walked beside Charles with the same grounded presence that had carried her through the ups and downs of public life. There was no grand performance, no dramatic transformation, just a woman doing her duty with quiet strength and a knowing smile. Let's look closely on Camilla's relationship with the king's family. Is she, in reality, accepted to royalty? The royal circle. Navigating family dynamics is never easy, even less so when your family also happens to be one of the most scrutinized institutions on the planet. For Queen Camilla, marrying into the royal family meant more than just assuming public duties. It meant stepping into a complex, emotionally charged web of relationships shaped by history, heartache, and, of course, the glare of the global spotlight. Her relationship with Prince Charles's sons, Prince William and Prince Harry, has understandably been one of the most closely watched. The dynamics have ebbed and flowed over the years, sometimes warm, sometimes strained, but always deeply human underneath it all. When Camilla first officially entered Prince William's life, the circumstances were delicate, to say the least. The wounds of his parents' very public divorce and the painful aftermath of Princess Diana's death were still raw. William was in his early 20s, and while he was already a future king in training, he was also still a son grappling with the loss of his mother. Accepting Camilla into that emotional space could never be immediate. To her credit, Camilla didn't force the issue. She didn't try to step into a maternal role or replace anything that had been lost. Instead, she kept a respectful distance while still making herself quietly available. She let time do the talking. Gradually, the frost began to thaw. William, known for his steady temperament and sense of duty, began to appreciate Camilla's unwavering support for his father. He could see that she made Charles genuinely happy, and that, in itself, mattered. In interviews over the years, William has spoken carefully but respectfully about Camilla, calling her a wonderful woman, and acknowledging that he and Harry loved her to bits. A quote that was, at the time, surprising in its warmth. Their bond isn't the kind that makes headlines. It's not flashy or overly affectionate in public, but there's a clear mutual respect. They've attended numerous engagements together, shared holidays at Balmoral, and supported each other through key milestones, including royal weddings and the transition to Charles's reign. Camilla is said to admire William and Kate's sense of modernity and purpose, and they in turn respect the calm steadiness she brings to the family. If her relationship with William has been quietly solid, Camilla's connection with Prince Harry has always been more fraught. Camilla and Prince Harry. Harry was younger when his parents divorced and younger still when Diana died. His memories of that time are understandably more visceral, more emotionally charged. For many years, he carried visible grief, and sometimes anger, over how the media and the royal family, including his father and Camilla, handled everything. For a long time, Harry kept his thoughts on Camilla relatively guarded, but that began to change with the publication of his 2023 memoir, Spare, where he expressed in no uncertain terms his discomfort with her role in the royal family and her perceived rehabilitation in the public eye. He accused Camilla of leaking stories to the press and described her as dangerous at times, driven by a need to improve her public image. It was a raw, deeply personal account, and one that reignited public debate over Camilla's journey and image. But even amidst the tension, Camilla never publicly responded. True to her character, she maintained a dignified silence, letting the press storm blow over without adding to the noise. Privately, those close to her say she was hurt but not surprised. She understood that Harry's pain was real and valid, even if his interpretation of events differed from her own. And despite the rift, Camilla has reportedly expressed hopes that the family, including Harry and Meghan, might one day find peace. It's a difficult chapter in her royal life, one that lacks the neat resolution so many would like. But it also speaks volumes about Camilla's approach to family. Quiet patience, minimal drama, and the long view. Sometimes, in families as in public life, all you can do is show up and wait for the rest to settle. Kate and Camilla. If Queen Camilla represents the embodiment of tradition weathered by time, then Catherine, Princess of Wales, is often seen as the modern face of monarchy's future. While the two women are different in age, background, and public style, they share more common ground than one might think. Both married into the royal family, both have faced intense media scrutiny, and both have learned, sometimes the hard way, how to maintain grace under fire. Camilla and Kate's relationship has always appeared warm, respectful, and aligned in purpose. Camilla reportedly welcomed Kate from the beginning, offering quiet guidance and support as she adjusted to the pressures of royal life. They've appeared together at countless engagements, from joint royal tours to charitable events, and there's a natural camaraderie in their interactions, gentle smiles, shared glances, light touches that suggest real affection. More than anything, Camilla admires Kate's devotion to duty and her role as mother and consort. She recognizes the burden that comes with being the future queen and has often made it clear that she's there, quietly in the background, should Kate ever need advice or just a listening ear. Their partnership isn't competitive or hierarchical, it's collaborative. And in a monarchy where the spotlight often skews toward men, their steady alliance speaks to the quiet power of royal women working in sync. Beyond the immediate circle of Charles and his sons, Camilla has also forged relationships with the rest of the extended royal family, each with their own dynamic. With Princess Anne, Charles's sister, things weren't always smooth. The two women are famously different in style. Anne, all no-nonsense, blunt practicality. Camilla, more understated, more socially intuitive. Early reports suggested some tension, largely based on Anne's loyalty to the late Queen and protectiveness over Charles. But over time, a mutual respect has grown. Both women are fiercely hardworking and share a love of horses and country life. Today, they're often seen side by side at events, exchanging quiet smiles and occasional dry jokes. Prince Edward and Sophie, the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, have also maintained warm ties with Camilla. Sophie, in particular, has been an important ally, loyal, media-savvy, and equally grounded in her approach to royal duty. They share a practical sensibility and often support similar causes, particularly those centered around women, education, and social inclusion. Camilla has also worked hard to honor the legacy of Queen Elizabeth II. She understands that stepping into the role of queen consort means following a woman who was not only monarch, but also matriarch. Camilla has never tried to imitate the late queen, but she has, in her own way, carried forward her sense of duty, steadiness, and respect for the institution. And finally, there's Camilla's own family, her children, Tom and Laura, from her first marriage. Though not working royals, they've remained close and supportive. Camilla has always balanced royal life with a strong connection to her private world, and that grounding influence is part of what makes her so relatable to many. The family she made, the legacy she shapes. Looking back, Queen Camilla's journey within the royal family is not just about acceptance, it's about contribution. She didn't just marry a prince and become queen, she slowly, almost imperceptibly, became a bridge. A bridge between generations, between tradition and modernity, between private pain and public service. Her relationships within the family reflect who she is: steady, kind, diplomatic, but not afraid to be direct when needed. She's not one to dominate a room, but she's the one people quietly turn to when things need calming down. She's offered stability to Charles, support to William, grace to Kate, and, whether accepted or not, an open hand to Harry. And through it all, she's done something remarkable. She's made space for herself in a family where space is often at a premium. Camilla today. Now, in 2025, Queen Camilla has fully come into her own. It's been a long, winding road, from country girl to duchess, from controversial figure to trusted queen, but she's arrived with her head held high. Her relationship with King Charles III is, by all accounts, one of deep mutual respect and affection. They share a rhythm, a kind of unspoken understanding that comes only with time and weathering life together. He leans on her, not just emotionally, but as a sounding board and partner in royal work, and she, in turn, supports him while maintaining her own causes and commitments. Camilla has also become something of a bridge within the royal family. She's built warm relationships with Prince William and Kate, the Princess of Wales, and is said to be a calming presence behind the scenes. She knows the spotlight isn't always kind, especially to women in the royal orbit, and she offers a unique perspective on navigating it all with humor and resilience. Public opinion, once sharply divided, has softened. While not everyone sees her as a fairy tale queen, many now admire her for something arguably more valuable: authenticity. She hasn't tried to rewrite history, or pretend to be perfect. She's simply shown up again and again with consistency, heart, and humility. And she's never lost touch with the things that ground her. Her love of dogs, especially Jack Russell's, her passion for reading, her sense of humor, and, of course, her garden. Even as Queen, she still feels like someone you could have a proper cup of tea with, maybe even a giggle over something cheeky in the papers. So, what is Queen Camilla's legacy so far? It's one of quiet transformations, of showing that redemption doesn't require grand gestures, but rather day-by-day actions. It's about staying true to yourself, even when the world seems set against you. Camilla didn't reinvent herself to become queen. She simply let people see who she really was, and let time do the rest. Her journey is also a testament to enduring love. Through scandal, separation, and societal shifts, her relationship with Charles endured, and ultimately prevailed. It's not the kind of story that fits neatly into a fairy tale, but maybe that's the point. It's real, it's complicated, and in the end, it's kind of beautiful. As queen, Camilla continues to evolve. She's not trying to become a monarch in the mold of Elizabeth II, nor is she redefining the role in radical ways. Instead, she's carving out her own version, one that emphasizes humanity over grandeur, presence over perfection, and service over spectacle. And honestly, that might be exactly what the modern monarchy needs. What do you think of Elton and Camilla's connection? Write your comments below. Thanks for staying until the end. Subscribe for more interesting contents.